Hello from sunny Florida. I'm Anna Real, and we, as in you and me listeners, are doing this solo today. Jumping into today's episode of Managing Your Perimeter, it's all about AI security and police unmanned ground, or PUG, PUG, just like the cute little dog. So, welcome to the show, Ed Prokop. Ed brings over 30 years in law enforcement and military experience to this conversation. So, Ed, please introduce yourself, tell our audience about your background, and then we'll get into what you're doing right now.
Well, honored to be on here, honestly. Kind of checked out 8 or 10 of the previous podcasts, and I'm not so sure I'm up to the task, based on the blue chip talent you brought in, but I'm excited to be here for sure. I did 27 years at LAPD, did all the field operations and special operations, and started in January '94 and retired in January of '21, and then moved out to Georgia and was an instructor at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center for a couple years, taught interviewing. And then I was the division chief of leadership. And most recently, I'm still in the military. I'm an Air Force OSI agent,
Aw,
and I'm stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. So I'm getting ready to fly out there on Sunday. So that's kind of good news. I love going out there, but I hate the 2-day flight. I'll be honest with you.
yeah.
So the last couple of years, I've been working with a pal of mine, Sean Malinowski. He's the managing partner of a nonprofit called the Policing Lab. It's a public-private partnership, and from there, we do a lot of good work with different agencies in different cities in Baltimore, City of Miami, Miami-Dade, Chicago. Sean's been up in Hackensack, I think Tampa, and essentially, yeah, Sean goes out and finds private donors
Mhm.
to assist police departments with all types of issues that continuously hamstring them. Data analytics, um, trying to clean out their data, how to be more responsive, project their capabilities, and overall just crime reduction. So we have that partnership in Miami-Dade for about probably the last 2 years, and probably for another 2 or 3 more years, based on the generous donations. And the last year or year and a half, we've been fortunate to just essentially stumble on the build of the nation's first autonomous police car. And it's been a fantastic ride, just, from 5 or 6 retired cops throwing this thing together in almost exactly a year. It's an incredible capability. And I'm excited to talk about it, and I'm excited where it's going. We just rolled this thing out October 1st, and the phone essentially has been ringing off the hook from all types of agencies and public and private, and it's been fantastic. So excited to tell you about it.
It's very, that's amazing. And I love the fact that when a product comes out, it's initially gravitated to, and people gravitate to it, and A, want to learn about it, or B, want to have a part of it, I guess, as you would say. So let's just start with sort of framing this product and just start with the basics on all of this. When people actually hear about autonomous police or patrol vehicles, they either imagine a RoboCop or a surveillance tool. What's the
Right.
most accurate way to understand what PUG actually does?
It's a mixture of both, and it projects deterrence. It's built, which separates Pug from every other mobile surveillance platform or just additional man hours, is its ability not to get tired. Its 360-degree capability with its tremendous sensor arrays and overwatch capabilities. And it is designed specifically to be in crime areas that are identified by the city or county. So the problem in modern policing or security issues is not identifying where the gaps are going to be, right? We all know where they're going to be. We've been doing this for quite a while. We know when crime's going to occur. We know what side of the street it's going to be on. We know our top 10 most deadly intersections. Problem for law enforcement agencies is they're facing, I think, 25 to 30% vacancy rates. And essentially, in short term, what that means is you have a full-time employee, a full-time police officer or sheriff works 2,080 hours a year. And research has shown that on a conservative side of those 2,080 hours, that officer is only able to work in a location that you want him to for 300 to 500 hours a year. Pug is able to deliver 17 times that. It's able to go out 20 to 22 hours a day and deliver about 8,000 patrol hours for that for that entity. And, it was designed specifically to provide that deterrence. That's why we chose the Ford Police Interceptor platform. Um, and I think that's what separates us from all these other typical security vehicles or mobile robots. Dubai has a tremendous amount of capability in this space, but it doesn't have that patrol car deterrence and the adaptability and modularity. A lot of different packages we could put on top of it, from um, crowd spotter sensors and arrays to long range acoustic devices to counter UAS capabilities to pan tilt zoom tethered drones. So it has a lot of different capabilities for these agencies. And that's what separates Pug from everything else. And, driving down the street, you wouldn't know if a police officer's in there or not. And it has that capability. So that's what's special about it.
Perfect. And so if we drop this in a stadium or on a campus or a city block, how does this change the way that space is being protected?
It's game changing. Our team has been talking about this for the last year and a half, and arguably it is probably the most significant piece of generational change in the police and security space in the last 20 years. And prior to that, it was probably body worn video, and then mobile data terminals. So it's that game changing. It has the capability, especially you talked about stadiums, positioning this thing at a choke point or an overwatch position with license plate recognition, facial comparison capability. The car in Miami-Dade is outfitted with 360-degree um, Axon Fleet 3 cameras. So you have that real-time information piped back to a command center or a mobile command center. The photo kite drone that we have on top goes up to 15 stories, and it flies as long as the car has gasoline. So
Mm.
having that ability and that situational awareness to have, if you identify a hole in a perimeter or a piece of fence goes down, or all of a sudden there's a big crowd somewhere that you didn't anticipate, moving this over there is relatively easy, as opposed to those fixed mobile surveillance trailers or fixed cameras or anything like that. It really is game changing.
So, yeah, understood. So now we're getting in sort of operational reality for all of this, right? So we're talking. Often there are times in our earlier conversation when you and I were first met, we talked about this as a force multiplier. So what does that look like in a real shift? What are officers not having to do anymore?
So it takes the mundane tasks. Research has shown that if we spend 8 or 10 minutes in a specific box that has been identified by historical data, crime data, environmental issues, right? If you make that appearance with a uniform presence,
Mm.
that crime is deterred, right? It's not going to happen there. And what's key about that is randomness as well, right? We've done a lot of studies with just fixed decoy cars, police cars out there, and bad guys know that they're decoys 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
So Pug has the ability to work with a partner or to be completely by itself. But imagine the ability for an officer to work a strip mall or a college campus or a sporting event or a high school, get out of the car. The car will be programmed on a specific route based on real time data and AI analytics. And the car is continuing that to augment that presence of that officer or deputy or security person that is on foot.
Mm.
And it's incredible. So that's the difference. And and just the reality of spending 30 years in this business, we all get sidetracked. We all call our loved ones. We all get hungry. We also use the restroom. This car is not going to get tired. It's not going to lose focus. It's not going to lose its attention. And the amount of investigative data and support and that layer of, I guess, redundancy, right, in our security apparatus is unmatched. It really is.
So how are the decisions? Are the decisions all automated? So if they're, it's augmented at the same time, but are all these decisions augmented if something comes up? Is the human still in the loop for this or
Yeah, I think I can't see a law enforcement space where humans won't be in the loop for decision making, right? I mean, this car doesn't have the ability to make investigative stops or vehicle pursuits or disobey the rules of the road. This car operates using the Tony AV kit, which is essentially an acronym for To Navigate You by Perone Robotics. And they've been at this game for, God, almost close to 25 years. going back to the DARPA challenges, and they have this agnostic kit that essentially makes any vehicle autonomous. So that's what we have in the car. And what's unique about it, and what's important, the difference between, like, you think about autonomous driving in a Waymo or a Tesla, and you say, "Hey, take me to Starbucks in whatever
Mm.
at this intersection." The car will take you there based on whatever route it decides. The difference with Pug is every place that car goes, it is programmed by a sworn officer or a security professional. So it doesn't make its own decisions as to, "Wow, I want to make a left here, make a right here." No, we program specifically what what lane of the street that it's going to be driving in, how fast it's going to go, how long you want it to stop at each intersection, and that's incredible, and it's necessary specifically for transparency, right? Because there is that, I guess, instinctual fear of, just the autonomous, policeman out there from 40 years ago when that movie came out, right? So human in the loop is always important, and I think, again, for transparency, this car is going to be it's going to be in the field starting May 1st. We've done a lot of community outreach in Miami, and it's going to be assigned to a real life deputy. So it's not like it's just anonymously out there
Right.
roaming around. All the data that is collected is going to be archived, in accordance with all of their policies and stuff. So it kind of takes away that spook factor.
Got it. Got it. So how does this integrate into the existing command structure without creating an overload for that operator?
So I mean, realistically, it's a gap, right? I mean, a lot of agencies, got to remember, before I retired, I think our budget was 95%
Mm.
tied up in personnel costs. So when you look at that huge number of, 1.3, whatever it was, and you realize that 95% of that is going to personnel costs, we don't have a lot of money to
Right.
spend on IT infrastructure, cameras, delays, capability. So there is a significant gap out there, and that's what this thing fills in, that capability.
Got it.
And the best thing that we can do is provide our police professionals with the most updated to date information so they can make those decisions, right? With their sound judgment and good moral character, that human in loop stuff that we expect.
Yeah.
And what better to take that unknown factor out when you have a live feed on a rapidly evolving chaotic event? You see exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, so we're talking about AI and we're talking about data and we're talking about decision making. You're collecting massive amounts of visual, thermal, and environmental data. What actually becomes actionable versus is just collecting more data?
It's collected in specific areas and locations that the county wants it to go, right? I mean, license plate recognition was, game changing technology, and being able to track, crimes across counties and states and identify folks. I mean, that's incredible. As well as, some jurisdictions do have that facial comparison capability.
Mm.
And imagine, the car driving down the street and identifying a missing 10-year-old, or identifying a silver alert like they have out here. A 78-year-old man walked away from a home and the car identified him, right? And it stopped and made an alert to the command post. And what a fantastic
Sure.
capability. And gotta be honest, the last 6 months this has been in Miami. That's kind of what the county and those community members expect. They think we have that already, you
Right.
know? And it's just, the reality is that we don't. So it's yeah, and every, anything that's evidence is going to be archived in evidence.com, right? Which is
Sure.
in accordance with everything going on. So it's not a separate data collecting
Right.
capability. It just augments their existing picture. And, having a real time 360-degree, every split second where the car's at and what it sees is incredible. Imagine being at a command center and having 6 or 8 of these things, and someone runs in front of the car, it's a flag down, "Hey, my son's choking," or whatever, right? I mean, we're developing a panel on the right rear portion of the car
Mm.
that's going to be able to be a direct connect to a live communications operator. I mean, that's like game changing technology, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's
Sure. I mean, we
really
see it
is.
seeing a ring camera at your house. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's the same
Yes.
same things. Yeah, definitely. So within this system, so how does it know what's supposed to be flagged or, what's important and what should just be ignored, that it's not on the radar for that?
Using AI, it can do a lot of capabilities. The car learns, right, from its environment. It has a LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging. Essentially, there's 4 sensors on there, and they're spinning they got 32 lasers in each pod, and it's spinning about 1,200 revolutions a minute at a specific degree and angle, and it paints a 360-degree environmental picture of as to what's in front, to the side, and so forth. In addition to the radar panels that are underneath it, used for light detection and used for, like, ranging and speed and that kind of thing, it archives that data and it learns. So if I'm driving down the same street,
Mhm.
the car can identify an anomaly to the point of, okay, this street light is out.
Yeah.
Let's send an alert to the command post because crime by environmental design, the biggest thing for security, right, is to put some lights on it, no dark spaces.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
if the car can identify this, and we're working with Florida International University as well. They're going to have the next one. It's going to be on a Chevy Tahoe platform,
Mm.
and they're looking at capabilities for the car to identify driving around campus routes, whether a door is propped open. Right? I mean, just imagine what that could do in the active shooter space or violent crime space. That's fantastic. Or in the police realm, what we were kind of designing it for is broken windows. Driving down 2 o'clock in a strip mall, 2 a.m. in the morning, and realizing the front window was smashed, the car learns from that environmental scan, hey, this is an anomaly,
Yeah.
right? Um, we did some testing with it along the border, and that's another capability, right? Any type of border or perimeter or security, having the car drive a specific perimeter fence, it'll identify, okay, hey, there's a hole here, or this fence is not as dense as it was. So, I
Right.
mean, there's a lot of capabilities and
The
applications for
shift.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. It can sense the shift. I get it. Okay. Okay.
yeah, and then it'll stop, it'll make an alert, and then that, man or woman that's looking at it or tasked with looking at 8 or 10 of these will be like, "Oh, okay, that's nothing," or, "That is something. Let's get
Sure.
somebody out."
Sure. Because oh, okay, got it. So yeah, they're able to just go back and actually assess it in real
Yep,
time to see what's
yeah.
going on with it. Interesting. All right. So when all of this is about public trust, right? Public perception and then the public response to this. So I know when you all launched this in October in the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, you had that first AI powered cruiser that came out, and it was called a game changer, right? I mean, this is a game changer in all of this for everything that you've listed. The manpower, all of it. Eyes that like you said, I mean, we're human. We're going to get tired out there. We're not going to see everything. But, an AI generated option is because it's just going to continuously run. Do you think that people feel safer with this, or do you think they feel watched? And how would you sort of measure that difference with this?
So, yeah, so good question, and that was the same question, the sheriff's office had. An extremely courageous decision for the
Mhm.
sheriff of Miami-Dade County to, deploy this thing and partner with us, and that was their exact concern, right? So, it was assigned to community affairs for the first 6 months from October till about now, and just gathering that tempo, right? I mean, what's the temperature out there for this thing? And it has been overwhelmingly accepting. They love the technology, they love the cameras, they love the drone, they love the fact that it'll be, a lot of these neighborhoods are like, "Hey, I never see the police," right?
Mm.
They'd love to have this car,
Sure.
in those types of areas. So it has been overwhelmingly positive, certainly. And, just being honest from experience, Florida is a different animal than
Yeah.
Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. It's a different environment, right? So down there, it's been extremely accepting. And we're getting excited we're training about 6 more operators to actually program the car and, edit the mapping and upload the mapping, basically teaching the car where to go for
Okay.
crime. And we're
Mhm.
doing that at the end of April, and it's going to be deployed May 1st, real time,
Yep.
doing crime missions in Miami-Dade. So we're excited about it for sure.
Well, it's a shame that you're not there for the Ultra Fest going on this weekend.
Yes, yes, I heard all about that. I remember all that nonsense when I was in LA and however long ago. Yes.
Yes.
I honestly, I was shocked by the outfits and what people were wearing. I was just like, "I can't even believe this." So it's
Yeah.
anyway, I best of luck to them. I hope nobody gets hurt.
No, I hope they don't either. We have some
Yeah.
fence actually that's been installed around there, and I know that everybody doing the production for the staging, and I just know right in that area, just it's so condensed, so many
Oh,
people
yeah.
be crammed in there. But so when you're having these conversations and you're talking to the agencies, what do they need to have before deploying something like this so that they don't don't lose the public's trust, right? I mean, I think you've talked about how, you had the conversation, it's been very welcoming, but what happened prior to that? Like, how were they able to get that trust and to launch this into that area?
So having trust of the platform is one issue, but the agency, it's designed, it's organic that it develops community trust, right? So if you're trusting and the community trusts you, right? I remember Charlie Beck, one of our police chiefs. He always said, we're the only public entity that isn't held accountable for our bottom line, right? Like budgeting, right? You didn't make your goal, or waste management, they had this much money and you didn't get it done. What what's important for us as law enforcement is that we have to be, no matter what the numbers say, the people have to trust that we're doing the job correctly.
Mhm.
And that's what he was concerned about. And that's what he taught me. Right. I mean, it doesn't matter the end state, right? So we're not going to cut corners. We're going to make sure that at every step this is rolled out properly, and we're telling everybody the truth. And that's important. So the agency has to have that trust in the first place. And then number two, something new like this, just like when we were rolling out drones in 2016, I was part of that to get that for LAPD, and that was a significant
Yeah.
hurdle, just because the anti-spying coalition and all that was very difficult lobby. And initially when it rolled out, it was for life in the balance situations only. Now, drone as a first responders is in uh, hundreds of cities nationwide. So it changes, right? But to answer the question, I mean, you have to be smart about it. You've got to tell whoever the end user is, if it's a school campus, if it's a oil refinery, if it's a sports facility, you got to tell them what this thing is capable of, what it does, and what it doesn't do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got to educate them to its limitations, and the other thing that you have to be real about is this is not the catch-all. Right? This is a fantastic tool, right?
Mhm.
Just like any tool, a fencing, piece of body armor, a speed trailer, right? I mean, there's applications for it, and you got to spend that time on the front end educating your end user.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I mean, definitely in our industry also, when we're out there, I mean, we're lucky our client trusts us and they bring us in to have these conversations. And certainly in any of this security conversation, I mean, it really is about trust. And so as we're keeping, in this conversation about the public trust and we have to consider the risks and the liability, right? And the ethics behind all this, what do you think about the data ownership and privacy when it's running? I mean, you're saying it's running 20 plus hours a day. That's collecting a lot of footage. So, what's your opinion on what all of that and what it's collecting?
So data collection, I'll get to that, but your trust thing. So that is actually how I met you, because of a dear friend,
Yeah.
Rob Pacey. So I gotta thank him. Yeah, the determination hasn't been made yet, specifically in Miami-Dade, because it is a lot of data, right?
Yeah.
You have 5 cameras, 60 degrees, that's covering, as well as a drone, right? The determination hasn't been made as to when it's going to be archived or when it's going to be turned on.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, there is a tremendous capability and storage consideration to it as well. But I mean, the software and capabilities that they have to plow through these videos now, and
Mm.
to narrow down specifically if you're looking for a male white with a goofy, collared shirt like me with glasses, it'll power through hundreds of hours of video
Mm.
and identify, guys that look like me. So it's pros and cons for sure. But I think, you see it everywhere. People expect, unfortunately, we're now at a point where, law enforcement used to be trusted just based on name alone, right? You could stand up and say, I swear. But now it's like, if it's not a video, it's nice that you're swearing to it, officer. But the reality is, I want to see the video. So
Yeah.
so people actually, that's just, the reality of 2026. They expect to see it on video. So it's a way of doing business now.
This episode of Managing Your Perimeter is brought to you by First Fence, the experts in keeping what matters most protected. Whether it's a temporary fence for your next big event or a permanent solution for your business, First Fence delivers with speed, precision, and peace of mind. Trusted by pros in construction, events, and beyond, they've got safety down to a science. Need a fence? Get it done right the first time at firstfence.com.
Do you think there's a piece of the technology that could be misused by any chance?
Well, I mean, technology can always be misused. Yeah,
Right.
but I think the checks and balances. that we've put in place, specifically the transparency and, like I mentioned, where this car goes, how fast it drives,
Yep.
the route it takes, all that is, open to the public and assigned, right? There's no randomness to it. And then there's no point in and at any point in time that any of the data that's collected, it won't be attached to an individual. Like you have to log on to the car,
Yeah.
right? With your name, your serial number. I'm working for these next 8 hours and
Yeah.
everything that I ran. If I decide to run, I don't know, Elton John, right? There's going to be a reason for it,
Right.
right? So you have to be held accountable. So that's that accountability piece. It's not like the car randomly just decided to run it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally understood completely. So like, well, then having said that, um, are there specific guardrails in place that if someone did decide to run sort of a celebrity, something on a celebrity, that it would, kind of flag it somewhere, or
I mean, I'm
like a
sure
law?
you could program the software for that, but I mean, as a whole, organizations have those
Yeah.
guardrails in place, right? I mean, they have the audit responsibility and reviews, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's handled. I think we learned our lesson in LA from, decades of those oversights, right? So,
I hope so. So, like, all right. So can you just think of a time uh, or, as you have launched this, when you think any of those, measures and guardrails that are put in place has actually helped? Or by
well, I
that,
think no,
or
I think
the opposite side of where you thought the absence of one might have caused a problem or something.
no, I think the biggest piece of the robotics capability that requires a human in the loop to physically tell it and program it where to go, that was the biggest eye opener, honestly. Initially when we got the technology, I didn't realize that. And no one at Miami-Dade did until we trained them. But I think that's the biggest checks and balance that allows me, the ability to sleep at night, knowing it's not going to just all of a sudden spark up in the middle of the night and go drive somewhere. I mean, so that human in the loop is always required for this car. So
Right. All right. So when we're talking about some strategic impacts here, so how does this change when we think about presence and security from human coverage to intelligent coverage?
well, changes it changes the way organizations look at and figure out return on investment.
Okay.
Number one, this car deploys at about a fraction of the cost
Yeah.
of an officer. Realistically, you're looking this car is like somewhere $35 an hour, $25 an hour, and an officer or sheriff is 75, 80, 90, and higher. And it provides 17 times the amount of distraction-free deterrence than an officer on his or her cell phone, right? And that's just the reality of life. Um, and then, how we look at changing, our traditional approach to these things and using, robotics as a service, right? How could we effectively integrate that into law enforcement? Because I mean, we have to, right? I mean, these agencies are too shorthanded, too much staffing considerations. They're pulled in 10 different directions.
Mhm.
And I mean, we have to capitalize on those specific areas where robotics or AI can assist and do that legwork or that mundane tasking, right? If we can have this car in a position where a deputy can be freed up or an officer can be freed up to go do the hands-on and engage the community or be at a school event or conduct an investigation, what better opportunity than that? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's
I mean, human fatigue is real. Well, it is what it is. And, we get out there and we are tired. So, but can you think of a place where this shouldn't be deployed? That this type of system shouldn't be deployed at all?
yeah, I mean, we got to be smart about it, right? I mean, the car has the capability to be teleoperated. So essentially, there's a gaming console, for lack of a better description, at the command center. So if this car gets into a situation like we've seen several autonomous, cars in the past, kind of shorting out and not really knowing what to do. The last couple of weeks, an ambulance was coming down, and I saw a couple of those Waymos get locked in.
Yeah.
We have that capability. If something happens to the car or the environment changes, all of a sudden there's now 100 people that are in front of the intersection that were never there. We
Yeah.
can remote in and remove that car out of the problem. This car doesn't belong in, significant um, urban unrest or riotous situations,
Okay.
right? I mean, it's a very specific, uh, sensitive tool with a tremendous amount of, ISR capabilities on it. So you don't want it out there vulnerable, right? So you got to be smart about, where it augments your footprint and where it provides that redundancy. And it's not to say that an officer has to be assigned to it, like physically securing it all the time. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to be smart about it as managers, right? And what's best for, you like we always say, we don't use a speed trailer on every crime problem, and we don't bring out an armored vehicle on every radio call. Same thing would be for the pug.
You just brought something up, and I was just thinking about this. So, in the does this have the capability to detect when there is a crowd that is all of a sudden appeared that, all of a sudden the crowd management side of this can kick in and see when, we now have 100 people where we only had 15?
Yeah, the density. So there's software and AI capabilities out there that we're partnering with that has the ability to digest those crowds, right?
Right.
And to
Yes.
traditionally see all of a sudden, wow, there's a thick density of folks here, and there's a propensity for something to happen. I mean, to include, using some of this capabilities for weapon detection, right? I mean, and that's been that's been in use for almost a decade. I mean, I think they routinely use it at Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff. So it's a continuous screening process, right? As opposed to, just one location. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. We have ideas as to, where the best use cases are, but there's going to be hundreds more of capabilities and use cases as this thing gets out there.
If you had the biggest aha moment with this and you were thinking about where would you draw the line on AI safety? Like where do you think you would draw the line?
I wouldn't allow the car to do anything without human oversight. I wouldn't, I wouldn't allow it just to, the next day, just do what it did yesterday.
Yeah.
That human has to be in that decision loop to say, yes, this is still a problem on Wednesday as it was Tuesday. Please go out and drive this route for 3 hours.
So you're liking it to be sort of programmed each day or each time and not for like a week at a time.
No, 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 no. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean stuff changes too quickly. The environment changes too rapidly. The scenarios change too rapidly. And again, that's that's just basic managerial deployment supervisory capabilities that everybody does at entry level, right? If you supervise 3 security officers, you still make sure that the same posts are what the same post should be today, right? I mean, we don't stand the same post on a closed business on a weekend as we do Monday to Friday, right? I mean, so it'd be the same application. So I think I don't want to see any of that leave.
Yeah.
I think that's important going back to, public trust and transparency. And, Charlie Beck said they have to trust the process. People have to trust that when this car is out there, it's because I wanted it to go there, right? It's not making decisions on its own.
Right, and I think by the same token, I mean, we've got a couple places and cities that we're in right now that, we're having to deploy some guys out there to reinforce some of our assets by tomorrow because they're expecting some marches and things. And I almost feel like it's the same concept. I think if a certain area has this capability and they know there's going to be a big march or a big protest somewhere that, you're sort of programming it to know where that perimeter is perhaps, and maybe just see what might be coming in a little bit more robust than was anticipated, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
well said. I mean, true. And what I didn't touch on is, the pug is built specifically on a police platform, right? So it still can operate as a police car.
mhm,
And that's important. If something changes or one of your static surveillance capabilities goes down,
yes,
someone can jump in the car and drive this to fill that gap and put it in a position of overwatch,
yep,
right? To kind of fill that short range, short term gap, or one of them went down or it was destroyed. You can position the car specifically with the drone to cover that choke point.
got it.
So, I mean, that's important too. It's just not an autonomous car going out there. If there's,
There's a
you know,
human. There's a human
yeah,
attached
there's
to it. Yeah.
there's a human there, and if you need it for a life in the balance scenario or a rapidly unfolding chaotic event, just get in the car and drive it like you normally would, and address the issue. So that's
Yes.
that's
Oh,
the duality of it. Yeah,
that's
it's
perfect.
important.
Right. Yeah, that is very, very important. Well, I'm gonna just so I have just a couple things, and before we go, I want and without this becoming about government, but more really about public a public informing opinion. And it feels really relevant to be talking about AI being integrated into our lives, especially as we just saw the first lady walking into a White House summit with a humanoid robot, which of
Yep.
course had mixed reactions. But how does the public opinion of that technology impact a business like yours?
I mean, I'd fall back on, using AI and those capabilities again, like crowd management,
Mhm,
having that capability. A car's not going to do anything on its own, but it will flag 100%. Hey, there was normally probably 15, 20 people here.
mhm,
Every time I've driven around, now there's 300, and that something's going on there, right? So again, having that alert, and that would alert someone at the command post, hey, the car got an alert, an anomaly, and that human has to determine whether it's needed for action or it's just an oversight or whatever,
right.
right? So I think that's important. Is the autonomous police car going to be as ubiquitous as the regular black and white in 10 years? I think there's a good, yeah, I do.
Hello,
I do.
Jetson.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think Elon Musk said that every human on the planet's going to have one of these in 20 years or whatever he quoted. I mean, it's just technology is moving so fast. It's sometimes, well, I can tell you honestly, historically, specifically in the public sector, we don't have the ability because of our checks and balances and audits and bureaucracies and funding sources. We're still, when we roll something out, realistically, it's 5 or 8 years old, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's just the organizational reality, and there's benefits to it. Like I said, the oversights and that kind of stuff, but it hinders it. So if you have a public private partnership that is able to fill a gap or a need in an agency, right? I think that's where we have to come together, and that's what we have to exploit. We really do.
Perfect. That's perfect. I think that's an excellent way to sort of end this. And where can our listeners learn more about your work? And tell us where to go.
Probably just policinglab.org or Prokop at pugvehicle.com. Prokop
Perfect.
at pugvehicle.com. Yeah. Miss Anna, I'm indebted to you. This has been fantastic. It's been
Oh
fun.
my
So thank
gosh.
you so
No.
much.
Thank you for talking us through this product and also just being open to bigger questions about the use of AI for security. And to our listeners, if you found this valuable, share it with somebody who's thinking about the future of security because these are conversations that are only going to get more relevant. And as always, you can find us on your favorite podcast channel or at arcusgrp.com. We will list Ed's details within our show notes for this. But thank you so much, Ed. I was very appreciative of your time. It's very informative. I definitely know that there are people that I want to introduce you to and make sure that I make that connection. I will also thank Rob for connecting us. This was very, very
Absolutely.
informative. But I really appreciate it. And for everybody out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And please stay safe out there.
Take care.